The grand halls of the Galactic University of Sciences buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of alien students floated, crawled, and walked through its crystal corridors. But three students stood out from the rest. Blue, Crystal, and Ray waited nervously outside the dean's office, their tentacles and appendages twitching with anticipation. "Do you think we got selected?" Blue asked, his transparent skin glowing with a soft blue light. Among the three, he was the most eager, always dreaming of adventures beyond their safe corner of the galaxy. Crystal balanced perfectly on her crystalline legs, her geometric body reflecting the corridor's lights. "We must have. Our grades are the highest in xenobiology." Ray, the quietest of the three, simply moved his eye stalks from one friend to another. His metallic exoskeleton hummed softly as he processed the situation. The door slid open with a gentle whoosh. Elder Mark, their favorite professor, emerged with his usual calm presence. His ancient form, made entirely of swirling gas contained within a protective field, approached them. "Congratulations." Elder Mark's voice resonated in their minds. "You three have been selected for the first ever exchange program to Earth." Blue's skin lit up so brightly that several passing students had to shield their eyes. Crystal's geometric patterns began spinning with joy, while Ray's eye stalks stood straight up in surprise. However, Elder Mark continued, his gaseous form darkening slightly. "I must warn you. Earth is classified as a death world." Crystal's patterns stopped spinning. A death world. That's just an old space tale, isn't it? Something to scare young ones during rest cycles. Elder Mark projected a hologram from his containment field. A blue and green planet appeared, wrapped in swirling white clouds. "Earth is very real and very dangerous. Its gravity is crushing by our standards. Its atmosphere is thick with corrosive oxygen. The temperature varies wildly, sometimes changing by 20 degrees in a single-day cycle." Blue waved his tentacles dismissively. "But Elder, they have cities and technology. Surely they've controlled their environment by now." "That's the most fascinating part," Elder Mark replied. "They haven't. Humans live with their world's natural chaos. They even seem to enjoy it." Ray finally spoke up, his metallic voice curious. "How do they survive?" "Humans are incredibly adaptable. They can survive in temperatures that would freeze crystal solid or melt blue into vapor. They walk around in gravity that would crush Ray's exoskeleton. They'd breathe oxygen that would corrode most species' respiratory systems." The three students looked at each other. Instead of fear, their expressions showed growing excitement. "When do we leave?" they asked in unison. Elder Mark's gaseous form swirled faster, showing his concern. "In one standard cycle, you'll be staying at their international university in a region they call Norway. We've chosen this location because it's one of their more stable areas." The next day cycle was a blur of preparation. The students received their protective suits, designed to shield them from Earth's harsh conditions. Blue's suit was filled with his native liquid atmosphere, Crystal's had gravity dampeners, and Ray's included additional structural support. During their final briefing, Elder Mark showed them more images of Earth. "These are called seasons," he explained, displaying pictures of the same location in different conditions. "The planet's surface changes dramatically throughout their year." "But what about the humans in these images?" Crystal asked, pointing to people playing in something white and cold-looking. "Why are they exposing themselves to such extreme conditions?" "That's what you're going to study," Elder Mark replied. "How humans not only survive but thrive in conditions that would kill most species in the galaxy." As they boarded their transport ship, Blue turned to his friends. "This is going to be the adventure of a lifetime." Ray's eye stalks twisted in what might have been a smile. "If we survive." Crystal's geometric patterns formed the symbol for laughter. "Come on, how bad can a death world really be?" Little did they know, Earth was about to show them exactly why it had earned its classification. Their adventure was just beginning, and it would challenge everything they thought they knew about survival, adaptation, and the remarkable species called humans. The transport ship landed at Earth's International University on a crisp autumn morning. Blue, Crystal, and Ray stood at the ship's doorway, each hesitating to take their first step onto the deathworld. "Our suits are working properly, right?" Blue asked for the 10th time, his transparent skin showing swirls of nervous patterns through his protective suit. Ray checked his instruments again. Atmosphere composition: 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen. Temperature: 15 degrees Celsius. Gravity: 9.8 meters per second squared, all within our suit tolerances. Then why are all those things falling from the trees? Crystal pointed at the orange and red leaves drifting down around the landing pad. Is the plant life dying? Are we under attack? A tall human figure walked toward them, wearing what they recognized as standard Earth clothing, a warm jacket and scarf. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Professor Smith, your guide during your stay here." The professor smiled warmly, though the aliens couldn't understand how any creature could survive exposing their teeth in the deadly oxygen atmosphere. "Professor," Ray's metallic voice crackled through his suit's speakers, "should we be concerned about the falling debris?" Professor Smith looked up at the trees and chuckled. "Oh, the leaves. That's normal for autumn. The trees are just preparing for winter. They'll grow new ones in spring." All three aliens stared at the trees in horror. Blue's skin turned a pale shade of his usual color. "You mean the plants regularly shed their external organs, and you consider this normal? Come on, let me show you to your quarters," Professor Smith said, seemingly unconcerned about the biological horror show happening around them. "We've adapted them to match your home environments." As they walked across the campus, more terrifying things kept happening. A gust of wind blew through the trees, sending more leaves swirling around them. Blue screamed and activated his suit's emergency force field. What was that? The air? It moved. Blue's voice trembled. "That's just wind," Professor Smith explained patiently. "It happens when the atmosphere is unstable too." Crystal interrupted, her geometric patterns spinning in distress. "How do you prevent being blown away?" "We don't need to. Earth's gravity keeps us firmly on the ground," the professor replied. Ray's eye stalks drooped slightly. "Speaking of gravity, my suit's compensation systems are working at maximum capacity, but I still feel heavy." Professor Smith nodded sympathetically. "Yes, Earth's gravity is stronger than what you're used to. You'll adjust over time." They reached a modern building with 3 separate entrances. "We've prepared special rooms for each of you. Blue, yours is filled with your native liquid atmosphere. Crystal, yours has reduced gravity and regulated temperature. Ray, yours has structural support beams and an air pressure matching your home world." Just then, a human student jogged past them, wearing shorts and a light shirt despite the cool temperature. All 3 aliens watched in amazement as the human moved effortlessly through the harsh conditions. "Professor," Crystal asked, "why isn't that human wearing protective gear?" "Humans don't need protection in these conditions. This is quite mild weather for us." "Mild?" Ray's eye stalks twisted in disbelief. "Our instruments show extreme temperature variations, unsafe oxygen levels, and crushing gravity. How can any species consider this mild?" Professor Smith smiled again, making the aliens wonder if showing teeth was some sort of threat display. "That's what you're here to learn about. Humans have adapted to Earth's conditions over millions of years. What seems dangerous to you is perfectly normal for us." As they entered their rooms, Blue turned to his friends. Maybe Elder Mark wasn't exaggerating after all. "And this is just our first day," Crystal added, her patterns forming worried shapes. Ray's metallic voice carried a note of fascination. "Just think, if this is what they consider normal, what do humans consider extreme?" None of them slept well that night, knowing they were on a planet where even the air could move unpredictably, and wondering what other terrifying surprises Earth had in store for them. 2 weeks into their stay on Earth, the alien students were finally starting to adjust to their new routine. Blue had learned to suppress his panic response to wind. Crystal was managing the gravity with only minor complaints, and Ray had filled 3 data storage units with observations about human behavior. That morning, they sat in the university cafeteria, watching humans eat their breakfast through the protective barriers of their suits. Professor Smith approached their table with unusual haste. "We should head back to your quarters," he said, checking something called a weather app on his communication device. "There's a storm coming." "Storm?" all 3 aliens asked simultaneously. Before the professor could explain, the sky outside darkened. Crystal's geometric patterns froze in alarm. "The star, it's being blocked out. Is this the end of this world?" "Those are just clouds." Professor Smith started to explain, but was interrupted by a loud rumble of thunder. Ray's eye stalks retracted completely into his metallic body. Blue's liquid form became so pale he was almost invisible inside his suit. Crystal's crystalline structure vibrated with terror. Then the rain started. ACDATAC. Blue screamed, activating every shield his suit possessed. The atmosphere is launching a liquid assault. Humans in the cafeteria turned to stare as the 3 alien students tried to hide under their table. Professor Smith knelt down beside them, trying not to laugh. "It's just rain," he explained calmly. "Water falls from the clouds when they get too heavy. It's perfectly normal." Crystal peeked out from behind a table leg. "Water falls from the sky, randomly, and you just accept this." Ray emerged slightly, his eye stalks extending just enough to record the phenomenon. "Fascinating. The humans aren't seeking shelter. They're simply using portable protection devices." He focused on a student opening an umbrella. "Let's get you back to your rooms," Professor Smith suggested. "We'll need to cross the courtyard, but it's only a short walk." They stepped outside, Professor Smith holding a large umbrella over them. Blue kept all his shields at maximum power, swimming nervously inside his suit's liquid environment. Crystal tried to calculate the impact velocity of each raindrop, her geometric patterns spinning with anxiety. Ray continued recording everything, though his eye stalks trembled. Halfway across the courtyard, disaster struck. A strong gust of wind blew a wave of wet leaves across their path. Blue, startled by the movement, jumped backward. His suit's gravity compensators malfunctioned from the sudden motion, and he slipped on the wet pavement. "Blue!" Crystal rushed to help her friend, but her gravity stabilizers weren't calibrated for rapid movement. She stumbled, her crystalline form clanking against the ground. Ray tried to assist both of his friends while still recording the incident. "Professor, the ground has become frictionless. It's a trap." Professor Smith quickly helped them up. "It's just slippery when wet. This is why we have signs warning people to be careful." "You mean," Blue said, his color returning slowly, "this dangerous condition is so common you need permanent warnings about it." They finally reached the safety of their residence building. In their common room, they watched the storm through reinforced windows. "I need to report this," Ray announced, his metallic voice serious. "Our home worlds must be warned. This planet randomly bombards its surface with liquid projectiles, and the humans consider it so normal they don't even run for shelter." Crystal's patterns formed the symbol for agreement. "They even send their young ones out in it. Look." She pointed to some students playing in the rain, splashing in puddles. "Maybe," Blue suggested, his color still slightly pale, "we should request a transfer to a safer planet, like that one with the active volcanoes." Professor Smith smiled and pulled out a data tablet. "Wait until you see what happens when the temperature drops below freezing and the rain turns solid." All 3 aliens stared at him in horror. Ray's recording device dropped to the floor with a clang. Crystal's patterns became complete chaos. Blue turned completely transparent. "It gets worse," they asked in unison. "Oh," Professor Smith grinned, "you haven't seen anything yet. Winter is coming." The morning everything turned white. The aliens thought their visual sensors had malfunctioned. Blue was the first to notice, his transparent form rippling with confusion as he looked out his window. "Emergency! Emergency!" he called through their communication system. "The world has been covered in some kind of crystalline substance." Crystal and Ray rushed to their common room, all three pressing against the reinforced windows. Outside, soft snowflakes drifted down from the gray sky, covering the campus in a pristine white blanket. "According to my sensors," Ray reported, his eye stalks extended to maximum length, "the atmospheric water has somehow transformed into solid form. This defies logical environmental parameters." Professor Smith found them huddled in their common room, all three refusing to leave the building. "Ah, the first snow of the season. I was hoping you'd be here to see it." "You knew about this." Crystal's geometric pattern spun in distress. "You knew the atmosphere would start dropping solid matter." "Of course," the professor smiled. "It happens every winter. Come on, I'll show you how humans enjoy the snow." "Enjoy?" Blue's color paled to almost white. "You mean humans intentionally expose themselves to crystallized water precipitation?" Despite their protests, Professor Smith convinced them to venture outside. Their protective suits have been upgraded for winter conditions, though Ray insisted on adding 3 extra layers of thermal shielding to his metallic exoskeleton. As they stepped outside, they watched in horror as human students ran past, some even deliberately falling into the snow to make snow angels. "Professor," Crystal asked, her voice trembling, "are those humans experiencing some form of mental breakdown? Why are they deliberately throwing themselves onto the frozen ground?" Before Professor Smith could answer, a snowball whizzed past Blue's head. His transparent form instantly shifted into emergency defense patterns, and he activated his suit's shield bubble. "We're under attack," he screamed. "The humans have weaponized the frozen precipitation." More students joined the snowball fight, laughing and ducking behind trees. Ray's recording devices were working overtime, trying to document what he assumed was some form of primitive warfare ritual. "This is how humans train for combat in harsh conditions," Ray theorized, his metallic voice serious. "Fascinating but terrifying." Professor Smith tried to explain. No, it's just for fun." "Look, I'll show you." He bent down and started forming a snowball. Crystal's patterns became jagged with alarm. "Professor has been infected. The frozen water must affect neural pathways." A group of students approached them, holding up their hands to show they meant no harm. "Hey, would you like to build a snowman with us?" one asked cheerfully. "They're going to build a creature out of this frozen substance." Blue's color shifted to a deep worried purple. Is this some form of forbidden earth magic? Despite their initial terror, curiosity began to overcome their fear. Under the students' guidance, they cautiously began to interact with the snow. Ray discovered that his metallic appendages were excellent for perfectly spherical snowball construction. Crystal found that her geometric form created fascinating patterns when she moved through deep snow. Blue, still nervous, developed a technique for analyzing snow crystals through his transparent form. "You know," Crystal said, her patterns forming more relaxed shapes, "this frozen precipitation does have a certain mathematical beauty." "The humans show remarkable adaptability," Ray noted, carefully documenting a snowman's construction. "They've transformed a hostile environmental condition into recreational activity." Blue was about to agree when a well-aimed snowball hit his suit's shield. Instead of panicking, he surprised himself by laughing. "Perhaps," he said, gathering snow with his tentacles, "we should conduct a practical study of this snowball fight phenomenon. For scientific purposes, of course." Professor Smith watched with satisfaction as his alien students joined the winter fun, though he wondered how they'd react when he told them about skiing. Some revelations about human recreational activities were better saved for another day. The aliens' understanding of Earth changed dramatically when they met Tom. Unlike other human students who politely kept their distance, Tom seemed fascinated by his extraterrestrial classmates. He joined them for lunch one day, carrying a tray loaded with various Earth foods. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, pulling up a chair. I'm in Professor Smith's xenobiology class, and I have so many questions." The aliens exchanged glances through their protective gear. Ray's eye stalks twisted with interest. "Actually, we have questions too." As they talked, a small flying creature, what Tom called a fly, buzzed around their table. The aliens watched in horror as it landed on Tom's food. "Watch out." Crystal's patterns flashed warning signals. "A flying predator is contaminating your nutrients." Tom casually waved the fly away. "Oh, it's just a bug. They're harmless." "Harmless." Blue's color darkened with concern. "You mean Earth has multiple species of flying creatures that regularly interact with humans?" "Sure," Tom shrugged, taking a bite of his sandwich. "We've got all sorts of insects. Bees, butterflies, ants, multiple species." Ray's recording devices activated automatically. "And they're all venomous." Tom laughed. "Some insects can sting or bite, but most are pretty harmless. Though I guess we do have some dangerous ones like black widows and brown recluse spiders." He stopped talking as he noticed all three aliens had moved their chairs back from the table. You live among venomous creatures." Crystal's geometric patterns were spinning so fast they blurred. "Voluntarily." "Well, yeah." Tom pulled out his phone. "Want to see some cool pictures of the spiders in my garden?" The aliens huddled together, fascinated but terrified as Tom scrolled through photos of various Earth creatures. Each new image brought fresh horror. "This is a squirrel that lives in the tree outside my window." "You allow wild creatures near your sleeping quarters." Blue interrupted, his transparent form showing stress patterns. "And here's my dog." "You keep a predator in your home." Ray's metallic voice rose an octave. "Oh, and this is from my hiking trip last summer. You intentionally went into an uncontrolled wilderness area." Crystal's patterns formed symbols of disbelief. Tom looked up from his phone, genuinely puzzled. "Don't you have animals on your planets?" "Our worlds are completely controlled environments," Ray explained, his eye stalks swiveling to check for more flies. "All potentially dangerous life forms are contained in special facilities." "Sounds boring," Tom said. "How do you handle weather changes?" "We don't have weather," Crystal replied. "Our atmospheres are regulated." "No weather? No animals? No bugs?" Tom shook his head. "What do you do for fun?" Before they could answer, a distant rumble made the building vibrate slightly. The aliens immediately activated their emergency protocols, but Tom just glanced out the window. "Cool, thunder's rolling in. Must be another storm coming." "You mean?" Blue's color had faded to almost white. "You can't even predict when your atmosphere will attack." Tom spent the next hour explaining Earth's weather patterns, tectonic plates, and ecosystem. With each explanation, the aliens' respect for human resilience grew. "So you're saying," Ray summarized, his recording devices nearly full, that humans live on a planet with unpredictable weather, constant atmospheric changes, thousands of venomous creatures, regular geological instability, and powerful predators. And you consider this normal?" "Pretty much," Tom grinned. "Want to come over to my place and meet my dog? I've got a pet snake too." The aliens declined the invitation, but as they watched Tom leave, they had a new understanding of human adaptability. "Maybe," Crystal suggested, her patterns forming thoughtful shapes, "humans aren't just surviving on a death world. They've mastered it." Blue agreed, his color showing amazement. Ray's eye stalks drooped with realization. No wonder the galaxy fears them. They consider all this fun. The day the ground moved started like any other Earth day. Blue was studying human literature in the library, fascinated by stories about something called beach vacations. Crystal was in the geology lab, examining rock samples through her protective suit. Ray was following Tom around, recording human social interactions for his research. The first tremor was so slight that most humans didn't even notice it, but the aliens' sensitive instruments went crazy. "Warning! Warning!" Ray's emergency systems blared. "Ground stability compromised." In the library, Blue's liquid form rippled with panic. The building is moving. This defies all physical laws. Crystal's geometric patterns flashed emergency signals as she watched the rock samples vibrate on their shelves. It's happening. The planet is finally breaking apart. The humans around them remained surprisingly calm. Tom, who was showing Ray the campus coffee shop, simply grabbed his drink more firmly. Just a small quake, probably about 3.0 on the Richter scale. You have a scale to measure planetary destruction. Ray's eye stalks twisted in disbelief. The university's emergency system activated, calm voices coming through speakers. Attention students, we are experiencing a minor seismic event. Please follow standard earthquake procedures. Standard procedures. Blue's voice crackled through the communication system. This happens often enough to have standard procedures. Crystal rushed from the geology lab, her protective suit's gravity stabilizers working overtime. We need to evacuate. The planet is experiencing catastrophic geological failure. The three aliens met in the courtyard, where students were calmly filing out of buildings. Some were even taking videos on their phones, looking amused. Professor Smith found them huddled together, their suits' emergency systems creating a cacophony of alarms. "Don't worry," he said soothingly. "It's just a minor tremor. Norway rarely gets serious earthquakes." Rarely. Blue's color had faded to almost invisible. "You mean some parts of Earth have worse ground movement than this?" Tom pulled up a video on his phone. "Check this out. This is from the Ring of Fire region. They get huge quakes there." The aliens watched in horror as the video showed much larger earthquakes, with buildings swaying and ground rippling. And humans live there. Crystal's patterns were practically strobing. Voluntarily. "Sure," Tom shrugged. "They build special structures to handle it. My cousin lives in Japan. They have earthquake drills in school and everything." Ray's recording devices were working overtime. "Let me understand this correctly. Humans know parts of their planet regularly experience massive geological instability." "Yes," Professor Smith nodded. "And instead of evacuating these death zones..." "Aha," Tom grinned. "They build bigger structures." Ray's metallic voice cracked with disbelief. "Don't forget the tsunami warning systems," Tom added cheerfully. "You know, for when earthquakes happen under the ocean and create giant waves." The aliens stared at him in silence. "The ocean," Blue finally whispered. "You mean the massive body of dihydrogen monoxide that covers most of your planet can also attack you?" Before Tom could explain Sunemis, the all-clear signal sounded. Students began filing back into buildings, chatting and laughing as if nothing had happened. "How?" Crystal asked, her patterns showing complete confusion. "How are they so calm?" Professor Smith smiled. "Humans are remarkably adaptable. We learn to live with our planet's natural processes." "This isn't adaptation," Ray declared, his eye stalks drooping with revelation. "This is insanity." "Maybe," Tom suggested, sipping his coffee. "That's why we're so good at space travel. After Earth, everything else seems pretty tame." The aliens watched as campus life returned to normal. Through their terror, a new understanding was forming. Humans weren't just surviving on a death world. They had made it their own. "I need to update my report," Ray said quietly. "I finally understand why humans are the most feared species in the galaxy." "Why?" Blue asked, though he was beginning to guess the answer. "Because nothing scares them anymore," Crystal answered, her patterns showing a mix of horror and admiration. Their planet has made them fearless. On their last day at Earth's International University, Blue, Crystal, and Ray sat in their common room, working on their final report for the Galactic University of Sciences. Their protective suits had been upgraded 6 times during their stay, and each upgrade told a story of Earth's challenges. "How do we even begin to explain this place?" Blue wondered, his transparent form showing swirls of mixed emotions. Ray's eye stalks moved between multiple data screens. "I've recorded 2,000, 347 instances of what we would consider survival-threatening conditions, and that's just during normal days. Crystal's geometric patterns formed complex analytical shapes. Perhaps we should start with our biggest mistake, thinking Earth was a primitive death world. But it is a death world, Blue argued, his color shifting to match his confusion. No, Crystal's patterns sparkled with revelation. It's much more. It's a training ground. They began writing their report. 2. Galactic University of Sciences. Subject: Earth Classification Update. Urgent. Earth should not simply be classified as a death world. This definition severely understates both the planet's dangers and its importance in understanding human capabilities. On Earth, water falls from the sky in liquid and solid forms. The atmosphere moves with enough force to reshape the landscape. The ground itself occasionally shakes, and portions of the planet regularly explode. See attached files on volcanoes. Yet humans don't merely survive these conditions, they thrive in them. Example 1. Humans witness water falling from the sky and create celebrations called rain dances. Example 2. They see wind-destroying structures and build machines to capture its energy. Example 3. They experience ground instability and construct larger buildings with special foundations. Most remarkably, humans have developed a trait we previously thought impossible: adaptable fear response. They know which threats require immediate action and which can be, in their words, dealt with later. Tom knocked on their door, interrupting their writing. "Hey, want to get lunch? The cafeteria has pizza today." The aliens looked at each other. 6 months ago, they would have been horrified by the casual invitation to expose themselves to Earth's dangerous environment. Now they simply checked their suit seals and followed their friend. Outside, rain was falling lightly. None of them activated their emergency shields. "We've changed," Blue observed, watching drops bounce off his suit. "Earth has changed us," Ray agreed, his eye stalks no longer retracting at every unexpected sound. Back in their room, they finished their report. Warning: current human classification as highly dangerous is insufficient. Humans are not dangerous because they evolved on a death world. They are dangerous because they have mastered it. Evidence suggests Earth's harsh conditions have created a species with the following traits: ability to adapt to extreme environmental changes, capacity to transform threats into resources, psychological resilience to constant danger, tendency to explore increasingly dangerous situations for fun. All galactic species must understand. Humans don't fear the unknown because their home planet has taught them to turn every danger into an opportunity. Final note: we request an extension of our study period on Earth. Despite initial terror, we find ourselves fascinated by this world's endless variety of challenges. Also, Tom has promised to teach us something called ice skating. Professor Smith read their report with a smile. "So, you're staying." Crystal's patterns formed happy geometrics. "Earth is terrifying, but we want to learn more," Blue finished, his color bright with excitement. Ray's eye stalks bobbed in agreement. Besides, someone needs to warn future exchange students about something humans call roller coasters. As they watched the sun set through a sky full of storm clouds, the 3 aliens realized something remarkable. They had stopped counting Earth's dangers and started appreciating its opportunities, just like humans did.